Hey yo, in this video we're going to be reviewing the new 5-star catalyst, Tulaytullah's Remembrance. It's the new scaramoouche signature catalyst. We're going to see how good it is as like a general weapon and if it works on other characters and stuff like that. And does it have like good value on your account or not? So yeah, let's begin. Alright, so as always, starting off with the base stats. It's going to have a 674 base attack at level 90, which is very huge. It's one of the highest base attacks in the game. And then the substat is going to be crit damage, and it's going to be a decent substat too. It's going to be 44% crit damage. It's not a super high substat, but that makes sense because of the high base attack. But yeah, it's still pretty good. A 44% crit damage is definitely pretty good. So as you can see, the base stats are like already pretty good. A high base attack and then a crit damage substat. So a lot of characters can only use that as like a stat stake already without even thinking about the passive or anything like that. So already it's not like a bad weapon. It's going to be at least an average weapon. But now let's check out the passive. So the passive is going to increase your normal attack speed by 10%. Obviously, this is specifically made for scaramoouche. He's going to benefit from that a lot, but it's going to be pretty good on a lot of characters who deal normal attacks. And then after you use an elemental skill, your normal attack's damage is going to be increased by 4.8% every 1 second for 14 seconds. So you're going to gain 1 stack every 1 second, and 1 stack is going to increase your normal attack's damage by 4.8%. And then during this duration, during like these 14 seconds, after you hit an opponent with your normal attacks, it's going to give you 2 stacks instantly. So you're going to gain 9.6% damage bonus to your normal attacks. And it's going to have a cooldown of 0.3 seconds. So if your character does like 2 auto attacks at the same time, it's not going to count. You're only going to gain 2 stacks. And then you have the maximum damage you can get from this passive is going to be 48%. So you have a maximum of 10 stacks. And the effect is going to reset after you use your elemental skill again. With refinements, it's going to increase your normal attack speed. It's going to increase it by 2.5% every single refinement. And it's also obviously going to increase the damage bonus. It's going to increase the maximum damage bonus by 12% for each refinement. So our refinement 5 is going to give you a 20% normal attack speed increase and a 96% normal attack damage bonus. So yeah, its refinements are not really like super good, but they're going to be pretty decent. So yeah, it's just going to double. But yeah, pretty much all this passive does is buff your auto attacks. It's going to increase their speed, and it's also going to give them damage bonus. That's it. So obviously the characters who can use this weapon are going to be characters who use their auto attacks as damage. So yeah, let's go to characters and see which ones can use this weapon. So we have the catalyst users here. We have Lisa. That's probably not the weapon for Lisa, like specifically. She's not really meant to be used as like an on-field auto attacks main DPS. But if you want to play her that way, this weapon is obviously going to be pretty good. And even if you want to build like a normal build Lisa, this weapon is still going to be pretty good. As I said before, it's going to give you a high base attack, crit, and stuff like that, which is usable. So yeah, I would say it's not really like the weapon for Lisa, but it's usable. Unless you'd want to build like elemental mastery Lisa, in that case maybe not, but generally it is usable. Barbara, again, it's the same thing. It's not really the weapon for Barbara, like specifically, but if you want to build like crit Barbara and stuff like that, maybe you can use this weapon. But yeah, generally speaking, it's not really like Barbara's weapon. We've got Ningguang. It's actually going to be very, very good on Ningguang. I think it might even be the best in slot. I don't see any other weapons like taking it over, to be honest. I'm not really sure. I haven't done like any calculations and stuff like that, but it's just perfect for Ningguang. It's going to give you a high base attack, increase your crit damage, and then buff your auto attacks. Now, I think it would have been better if it didn't have like the cooldown, so you're gonna have the stacks quicker with Ningguang, but even with that, it's still gonna be pretty good. So yeah, it definitely works on Ningguang, and I think it might even be the best in slot for like main DPS Ningguang. We've got Klee. It's pretty much the same thing, really. It's gonna work. Now, I'm not sure if it's gonna be the best in slot or not. There's a good chance it will be, but yeah, it's definitely gonna work on main DPS Klee. It's gonna buff your auto attacks, give you crit, a high base attack, which is pretty good. We've got Mona. Again, if you want to build her as like a sub DPS, then maybe you're gonna benefit from the crit and stuff like that, but for the passive, it's not really made for Mona. Same thing with Sucrose. If you want to build like crit Sucrose with Anemo damage and stuff like that, you can use this weapon. Other than that, it's not really the weapon for Sucrose. We have Yanfei. It's actually going to be one of the best weapons for Yanfei. Yanfei uses her auto attacks to do damage, so this weapon is going to buff them a lot, which is pretty good. Again, combine that with the high base attack and crit, is going to make it one of the top weapons for Yanfei. So yeah, it's definitely going to work for Yanfei. Kokomi is definitely not the weapon for Kokomi. I don't see any way that it can work on Kokomi, so yeah, it's definitely not the weapon for Kokomi. Yai Miko, generally you're gonna benefit from the crit and the high base attack, but I know some people like to build like Yai as an on-field DPS. In that case, it's obviously gonna work perfectly. If you're using Yai as like a driver, yeah, it's gonna work. But yeah, even for like a normal built Yai, it's definitely gonna work. As I said, it's just the high base attack, crit damage, these are gonna be always usable. So yeah, it's not like a top weapon for Yai, but it's definitely gonna be usable. We've got Heizu, probably not. Usually you're gonna be doing damage with his elemental skills, so it's not really made for him. But again, if you're building him for not like elemental mastery, you just want to build him for like crit and Nemo damage and stuff like that, you can still use this weapon and it's gonna be pretty good. We've got Naida, probably not. It's not really the weapon for Naida. And then we've got the Wanderer. Yeah, it's obviously gonna be his best in slot. It's gonna give you a high base attack, which he needs. Obviously, it's gonna give you crit damage, and then it's gonna buff your auto attacks, which he needs a lot. So yeah, it's definitely the best in slot for the Wanderer, scaramoouche. So now for the final conclusion, should you wish for this weapon or not? I would say it's just a decent weapon as a 5-star. It's not really like super good, especially because of the passive. The passive is kind of like restricted. You're gonna need a character who uses their auto attacks for it to work. Other than that, it's gonna be useless on most of the characters. So it's not like a very universal weapon, but I would say that's generally the theme for most catalysts. Except for maybe the Last Prayer, it's just gonna give you damage bonus when you're on field. But even with that, a lot of characters are not gonna be on field, so they cannot use the passive. There are not really that many 5-star catalysts that are like universal. So yeah, that weapon fits right in, a high base attack and then crit damage is a substat. Again, it's always gonna be a good stat stick. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty decent as a 5-star catalyst. Should you wish for it or not? I would say if you already have like a good 5-star catalyst, like the Kairos Versi or Last Prayer or something like that, it's probably not really worth it to get this weapon unless you want to get it like specifically for scaramoouche. In that case, that's another story. But talking about like the weapon value as a whole for your whole account, it's probably not like super necessary to get this weapon. So yeah, if you already have like a 5-star catalyst, maybe it's a skip. But if you don't and you need like a good catalyst 5-star, in that case, yeah, it's gonna be a decent weapon and you're probably not really like gonna regret it in the future. So yeah, to put it out simply, I would say it's not something like very special, but it's good. So yeah, that was the video, guys. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. If you want to say anything, leave it in the comments, and see y'all in the next video. Peace.